This program was born out of a realization, not out of an inspiration. It was actually something that over a period of several years, I began getting a series of phone calls, and it was all variations of the same kind of story. It was somebody whose life, either because of the circumstances they found themselves in or something about who they were, was going to require something a little bit unconventional or a little bit off the beaten path for them to really find their way to what they really want in their life. And some of the stories were, a 23-year-old, for example, who drank his way out of freshman year of college, spent the last 3 or 4 years working as a waiter in a restaurant, and all of a sudden is waking up one day saying, I don't want this for my life. And there's something he did want, but had lost his confidence in himself to really be able to go after it. And we had one conversation. It became so clear what it was he wanted. 6 weeks later, he's in a program. 6 months later, he started his own business. It was a 19-year-old who was a sophomore in college, cruising along, doing her sorority girl thing, when all of a sudden a family tragedy happens. Death of a parent, some other issues that came along in the family, threw her world upside down. And it was all of a sudden this realization for her that life wasn't going to be the way it was before. And for her to really get to where she wanted to get to in her life was going to require having to find a different way to get where she wanted. She's now 23. She is launched into her career, getting recruited by headhunters, trying to get her into bigger and bigger companies, doing work she absolutely loves. But at the moment we met, she was suddenly on a different path. It was a young man who decided that he wanted to skip college altogether and wanted to become a Navy SEAL, who's now a Navy SEAL. It was a high school student who decided that he wanted to become not just a high school All-American athlete, but also wanted to be a Division I college athlete in one of the top programs in the country. And this whole path that emerged for him that was going to require sacrifice and doing things differently than many of the kids around him were doing on his weekends. Instead of partying, the training that he would do and the studying he would do to try to get into the school he wanted to go to. And eventually he got exactly what it was he wanted to be at this particular school. And interestingly enough, the most common kind of story that I hear actually is these young people who on the surface look like they're just your typical teenage kid. They're doing school, they've got their friends, they are getting good grades, they're on the path to go to college, maybe they're in college already, maybe even they've just recently graduated. And they suddenly find themselves at this point where they're saying, I really want more in the relationships. I want more than just relationships of convenience. I want people I can really rely on, not somebody who's caught up in their text message or who will keep a commitment until something better comes along. And they're at this threshold where they really want these more grown-up relationships, and they're seeking more depth and more substance in their life. Or it's that same person on that path, but they're looking at all these options available to them for career, and they find themselves, in a way you could say in their soul, yearning to do something that really feels meaningful. So while, yes, they want the benefits of having money in their life, what they really want is a life that to them from the inside feels rich. It's these people who decide to graduate high school a year early, and all of a sudden the reality of being out of school and being out of sync with your generation as they're really on a different path in their life. Or it's the person who really wasn't ready to go off to college and decided to stick around and get a job and hang out at home. And all their friends now are 22, 23 and graduating school, and they're just beginning their college experience or just beginning their life. And all these people share these certain thing in common, which is that to get where they're going to get to in life, where they really want to get to, they need something more than just the conventional path. They need something more than just conventional tools. And they struggle to find people who can give them the perspective that they need, can give them the advice that they need, to give them the guidance to find the opportunities that they want. Oftentimes they wind up becoming very anxious or over worrying when they don't really need to be, comparing themselves to other people, feeling like maybe they're not as good as other people because they're not necessarily doing the things that are so easy to represent on the outside as really having accomplished something. And yet what I found was when I would work with them and help them to let go of so many of these expectations they held about how life is supposed to be, and help them to really start tracking for the data that's relevant to them, which is the people and the opportunities that they really need to be able to get where they want to get to in life, to develop the attitude, the mindset that they have, to be willing to make the sacrifices or the difficult choices or to let go of things they have to let go of. it would be a matter of somewhere in the first couple of conversations, like something would just click. And all of a sudden, I would see this person begin to just come to life, come back to life, start to really come alive and be excited instead of being afraid about the future or instead of being caught up in comparing themselves to everyone else. It was to be excited about the future. It was this, instead of the unknown being this sort of scary place, it was instead the unknown became this adventure to be lived. And that's when I realized what it is they're all on a different path. Some look very conventional, but on the inside they want something different. Some of them, because of life circumstances, has thrown them into this different way that they're going to have to go in their life. But all of them on a different path. And what they don't realize is there are others out here who get it. Others who are not stuck in the narrow way of one-dimensional way of thinking about how things have to be done. And as they begin to learn from what we can offer them, and they begin to internalize it, all of a sudden, things that seemed like they were impossible now suddenly become not just possible, but they begin to realize those possibilities. And oftentimes it happens really, really quickly. So that's why I put this together. That's what On a Different Path is about. And go ahead and explore the website. And if you find this to be something that's of interest to you, by all means, contact us and reach out, because you may be like so many of these others who find that in this very short window of time, some of the input we can offer you can make an enormous difference to get you launched onto your life path.